Bill Williamson. Bill is one of the gang's most notoriously unreliable members. A former Army soldier who left under dishonorable circumstances, he has the raw strength and toughness needed for an outlaw's life, but none of the planning skills or patience. Bill is quick to anger, easily provoked, and prone to acting before thinking, traits that constantly pull the gang into trouble. He's the kind of man who believes loyalty means doing whatever Dutch says without question, even if the plan is flawed or suicidal. Bill's reckless actions often escalate situations into violence, drawing lawmen, bounty hunters, and rival gangs toward them. His temper makes him dangerous, not just to their enemies, but to his own allies. While he occasionally shows a sense of camaraderie, his lack of foresight and hot-headedness turn him into a constant liability. In many ways, Bill represents the muscle of the gang without the brains to back it up. Route 2. Micha Bell. Micha is, without doubt, the most reviled member of the Linde gang. From the moment he appears, he exudes arrogance, condescension, and a knack for manipulation. He quickly worms his way into Dutch's confidence, feeding him ideas that appeal to his ego and sense of grandeur. Micha thrives on stirring conflict within the camp, targeting Arthur and anyone else who questions him. He plays the role of a loyal soldier in public, but works behind the scenes to undermine the group for his own benefit. Micha's influence over Dutch accelerates the gang's collapse, as he pushes for more reckless robberies, unnecessary killings, and open confrontations with law enforcement. His selfishness becomes undeniable when it's revealed he has been secretly working as an informant for the Pinkertons. This betrayal leads directly to the capture, death, or scattering of nearly every member. Micha's greed, cruelty, and treachery make him not just one of the worst members of the gang, but its ultimate destroyer. 3. Javier Escuella. Javier begins as a charming, skilled gunslinger and tracker who seems to embody loyalty. However, as the gang fractures and Dutch's behavior becomes more erratic, Javier refuses to see the truth. His loyalty to Dutch turns into stubborn blindness, making him stand by decisions that put everyone in grave danger. When Arthur and others start to question Dutch's sanity, Javier distances himself from them, choosing to remain in Dutch's inner circle. While Javier never outright betrays the gang in the same way Micha does, his refusal to confront Dutch's decline makes him complicit in the group's downfall. He turns his back on those who were once his closest allies, ultimately siding against Arthur. Javier's downfall is tragic because it comes from misguided devotion rather than malice, but it still places him among the worst due to the harm his blind loyalty caused. Number 4. Dutch van der Linde. Dutch is the founder and visionary leader of the gang, and for years he lives up to his own legend, charismatic, intelligent, and driven by a belief in freedom from the government's reach. But by the time of Red Dead Redemption 2, Dutch is no longer the man he once was. Pride, paranoia, and greed slowly erode his ideals. He stops listening to trusted friends like Hosea and Arthur, instead surrounding himself with sycophants like Micha who fuel his ego. Dutch's one last score promises become empty mantras as he drags the gang into increasingly dangerous schemes. Each failed plan brings new casualties, and Dutch deflects blame onto others instead of owning his mistakes. His moral code, once strict, crumbles. He begins killing needlessly, abandoning allies, and sacrificing loyalty for survival. By the end, Dutch is not just a flawed leader, he's the architect of the gang's destruction, letting his ego outweigh his love for his people. 5. Leopold Strauss. Strauss is the gang's loan shark, handling finances and organizing predatory lending schemes. He gives out small loans with impossibly high interest to desperate people, trapping them in debt they can never repay. This work earns the gang money, but also fosters resentment in towns and settlements, painting the gang as vultures feeding on the weak. Strauss rarely gets his hands dirty, but his actions create ripple effects that bring law enforcement and moral condemnation down on them. His business causes immense suffering, and as Arthur's morality grows, he grows to despise Strauss's lack of empathy. Eventually, Arthur drives him out of the gang entirely. Strauss may not carry a gun often, but his cold exploitation of the vulnerable makes him one of the gang's most morally corrupt members. Uncle is the gang's habitual loafer, a man who contributes little and spends most of his time drinking, sleeping, or spinning exaggerated tales of his past. He avoids work whenever possible, offering excuses or disappearing when there's trouble. While he occasionally takes part in missions, he's more interested in his own comfort than the group's welfare. Uncle is not evil or treacherous, but in a gang where survival depends on every member pulling their weight, his laziness and unreliability make him a constant frustration. He's tolerated because of his humor and long-standing membership, but in practical terms, he's a deadweight. When the gang needed unity and hard work most, Uncle remained more of a camp fixture than an active contributor. Number 7. Molly O'Shea. Molly, Dutch's romantic partner, is introduced as a confident and spirited woman, but over time she becomes increasingly isolated and bitter. Dutch grows distant, focusing on his plans and other members, leaving Molly feeling neglected and irrelevant. Her frustration turns into resentment toward the entire gang. In a drunken outburst, she claims to have betrayed them to the Pinkertons, though it's never confirmed whether she truly did. Regardless, Miss Grimshaw executes her on the spot, ending her life in a haze of mistrust. Molly's downfall comes from her inability to communicate openly and her choice to lash out destructively. While her role in the gang's destruction is smaller than others, her actions add to the internal chaos and paranoia. Roommate, Kieran Duffy. Kieran is a former O'Driscoll gang member taken prisoner by the Linde gang. Initially kept alive for information, he slowly tries to earn their trust. Despite his efforts, many gang members never fully accept him, seeing him as an outsider. His nervous, awkward demeanor doesn't help his case, and he's often the target of ridicule. Kieran's past ultimately catches up to him when the O'Driscolls capture, torture, and kill him, using his body as a gruesome warning. While Kieran isn't malicious or disloyal, his presence unintentionally brings danger to the gang due to his old affiliations. His story is tragic. He wanted to belong, but his history made him a constant risk.